right, welcome back to the Baseball Show. I am your host, Andy Singleton. I'm here with Ralph Lifshitz as always. We are going to break down 3 hitters for you today. We want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune into Nickel Press TV and check out this baseball series. We are currently the fastest growing fantasy baseball show on YouTube, so as long as we can actually say that distinction, we're going to use it. Once again, thanks to everybody who's been subscribing to the channel, who's been liking these videos, leaving your comments. We appreciate it. We encourage you to keep doing that. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do so now. Don't wait till the end of the video because you might forget. Just pause it and just click subscribe. If you're unfamiliar with the player library, you can go to our playlist and you can find player library where we've cut up and isolated each player we've covered individually on their own. So you don't have to scroll through these episodes and you can just pick out the player on their own. They're all alphabetized. That's pretty much it. Ralph, you ready to go?
I'm ready to roll, man. Let's do it.
All right,
Best fun baseball show.
Yes, let's dive into 3 hitters today in Yoenis Cespedes, Nomar Mazara, and Miguel Sano. A lot of Latin flavor, a lot of Latin love going on today, and 3 outfielders. And I'm excited about this because these are all pretty high-profile guys, and for varying reasons. Starting with Cespedes, I first want to just say I am glad this guy wound up on a big market team because beyond just having a fun name to say, he's very entertaining to watch play. Now,
yes.
I don't necessarily know if it always translates to being a great fantasy player as much as it does just a good player for his team, in this case, the Mets, on a day-to-day basis. He is a constant threat in their lineup and is definitely a bat they've needed to have. But, you know, we've seen all kinds of highs and lows with him over a predominantly steady 5-year career to date. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but hear me out on this. His average has been anywhere between 293 and 240. That's a huge range. His home run totals have been between 35 and 22. His RBI totals have been between 105 and 80. And finally, he stole 16 bases in his first season, and he's never gotten to double digits again since that. I say all that to tell you this. He's a top 30 outfielder. He's just not a top 15 one. And that's currently how you're going to have to draft him if you want him on your team. His NFBC ADP right now is exactly outfielder 15 on the nose. He's the 60th player overall. That puts him in the 5th round. Again, I think he's a very good player. He's a very solid player. He's somebody I want on my team, but I don't think I want him as my number 1 outfielder. And that's what you're going to have to pay right now.
Yeah, I think he's somebody, I'd probably take him as like my 2. Maybe the 3rd or 4th hitter that I grab. I like Cespedes. He's had back-to-back 30 home run seasons. He's been in the 280, 290 range. He seems like a guy that's well within his peak years right now. I think he loves playing in the big spotlight of New York. Oakland's Park does some damage to hitters, particularly with batting average. So I'm not going to read too much into that. I don't think he's going to run again, but I think he's one of these guys that if he's healthy, and I know that he spent a lot of time this offseason working on his legs. He said, well, that was one of the things that plagued him last year. He didn't have a whole lot of games played. I think he was around 130, 137, somewhere in that range. And if you can put it all together, this guy could hit 290, 35 home runs, driving 100 runs, score anywhere from 80 to 90 runs. I think it gives you good production. And I think he can outplay his ADP. It's just, can he stay healthy? Can he put it all together? He's going to have enough protection in the Mets lineup. So there are some question marks. I like the player. I like owning him because, as you said, he's a real exciting player to root for, to watch, to cheer for. He was here in Boston for a few months. I loved him when he was here because he just makes hard contact. I mean, you could see this guy's a natural power hitter, and he's electric. He's a lot of fun. So I hope that this is the year that Cespedes puts it all together, has that 280, 290 year with 35 bombs and 100 RBIs. I'll probably draft him in the 5th round if I can get him there. I don't think the price is awful. I think he's very safe for where you're getting him. But the ceiling, he's got to stay healthy for the ceiling to really come together.
Well, he is aging, and we're not 1,000% sure what his actual age really is. That was some of the holdups with his contract negotiations in terms of being offered a long-term deal. We think he's 30. going on 31. So he's starting to exit his peak power years. Do you think 30 is repeatable? I would probably tend to agree with you. However, you mentioned you think he can outperform his ADP. His ADP is the 15th outfielder, so that's pretty significant. That's putting him in the top 10 at the position. But my question to you before we move on from Cespedes is, with his age now increasing and his second half kind of swoon and tailing off last year for the Mets, some of it was obviously health related. Are you concerned at all that might be the warning sign that he is going to start to decline?
It could be. I like the fact that Cespedes himself has acknowledged it, and he's tried to correct the problem by really focusing on his lower body strength, doing a lot of squats and some other exercises to sort of boost his legs, because he felt that his quad injury which is what hampered him, really, he said, was painful, really plagued him down the stretch. We saw the kind of player this guy could be after getting traded to the Mets back in 2015, and he just exploded. And I'm hoping that he can put together a full season. Maybe some of that, some of that training that he's put in the off season, he's strengthened his core. It's allowed him to sort of play out that 162. And we've seen power hitters like this before get better and sort of peak in their 30s. Guys like Joey Bats, David Ortiz. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think he's very much in the class of those guys when it comes to the bat and the sort of things that he can do. It's just a matter of him staying healthy if he can. I mean, he's the kind of guy that, he's a perfect DH. If he could DH and not play the field every day, I think that he could do this for another 5-6, years. But I'm buying in 2017. I think Cespedes can put it all together and be a top 10 outfielder. I really do.
Yeah, you mentioned when he came over to New York, there was legit talk of him being a write-in MVP winner for the season. And such a limited sample size. That's how crazy his time was when he first came over. Before we move on from Cespedes, I just wanted to add, absolutely nobody has played free agency better, not once, but now twice over the last 2 years, as Yoenis Cespedes has. It is insane how he has played not only the market, but the Mets.
It's A-Rod-esque the way he's opted out of contracts and gone back out and got more money. I like it. Good for him.
And signed ahead of other free agents. And his market was very different than the general market. It was just very odd and peculiar in both times. But moving on to a youngster, Nomar Mazara in the Texas Rangers organization. This kid is a beast. And, I think he was his current 6'4" stature in the 4th grade. We've heard about this kid for a while now. He popped 13 homers, 62 RBI as an 18-year-old in Single-A Hickory. But he really made strides to be a more disciplined and all-around hitter since then, as opposed to just a power guy. He's still just going to be 22 at the end of this April. So even though he's progressed through every level and the Rangers didn't necessarily rush him, they played it out steadily, it still feels like he's awfully young to be in the pros already. As I mentioned, he's just going to be 22. He proved the power is real as a rookie. His average wasn't necessarily as good as he's shown it can be. He showed he can, center a ball and knock it out of the park at such a young age against major league pitching. But the average was a little exposed. I fully expect him to improve on that 266 average and get closer to the 280 mark as a pro. I also expect 25 home runs and 85 RBI as his absolute floor. The kid really could be that good. Those numbers alone would be awesome, and we'll put him in the top 30 outfielders. But I think he can even reach higher numbers than that as soon as this season. The crazy part is he's currently being drafted as the 48th outfielder, 207th overall, 17th round. I mean, it feels foolish to say he will double his investment, but apparently that's where people are placing him in this market. So I think it's a no-brainer. You get Nomar Mazara everywhere you can. And if you can reach for him in the 15th round, it's still a steal. So I'm all in on Mazara this year. I'm curious what Ralph's take is.
Yeah, man. And that was the first thing that I saw. I love Mazara. I was high on him last year when he came up. I was one of the few people beating the drum saying this kid is not going down. He's staying up. He's going to be one of the best, young players in the major leagues. I actually made some trades actually in the expert league for Rasball with Gray Albright that was much talked about, where I ended up getting Jose Abreu and Mazara for Todd Frazier. It worked out really well on my behalf. Got to toot my own horn there. But yeah, I love this kid. I mean, and the fact that he's going, as you said, 207, 206 overall, yeah, is a steal, especially when you consider the numbers, the sort of power that he flashed. And I want you to look at what his average home run distance was. This guy didn't hit any cheapies. He was one of 3 players that had three or more home runs travel 450 feet or more. The only other 2 guys that are even on that list are Giancarlo Stanton and Carlos Gonzalez. So that's some pretty heady company when you consider that he's 21 years old. We haven't even seen the power peak yet. In terms of the type of hitter he is, you hit the nail on the head. This is a guy that can hit for average. This is a guy that should hit 300 most years of his career. He was very young last year, came up at 20, played most of the season at 21. And he hits the ball all field. So he spreads it around. He's not a pull guy. Which always keeps his, we talked about in a lot of different episodes. It's going to keep his average high. Doesn't strike out much. He had 19.7% K percentage, which is phenomenal when you consider the fact that he's 21. There's very few guys in all of baseball that could do that as a 21-year-old. I expect that to probably get even better. He had decent walk numbers as a 21-year-old, 6.9% walk rate. That could probably even improve a little bit because he is very patient at the plate. But not overly patient. So he has a good balance in terms of, he's not just waiting on everything. He's not swinging at everything, but he waits for his pitch. He's got good pitch recognition skills, which is the biggest skill that a hitter can develop at a young age. That could be a precursor of future success. I think he has that. He's got the good line drive rate, 21.4% in his first big league season. The only thing that I have with Mazara is that he hits too many grounders, but I think with the kind of contact that he makes, just a little bit of a tweak with his swing, this guy could, put the ball in the air more frequently, probably hit for more power, especially there in Arlington. I think the sky's the limit. This could be the steal of the draft this year. In your redraft leagues, if you're getting this guy at 200th overall, you are stealing him from the other guys in your leagues. He's probably going to be your 3rd, 4th, 5th outfielder. I mean, God, if you can get him, at the back end of your outfield, and let's say he bumps up a little bit, hits 280, as you said, 25 homers, 85 RBIs. That's an absolute steal. At that price, I'm probably going to own Mazara everywhere.
Yeah, the problem with him is going to be in dynasty leagues because he's still so young. You're probably not going to be able to get him for cheap, even though the redraft market is saying, he's on the cheap side. But if you're in like a keeper league where you're trying to determine between, whatever, 5 keepers, 3 keepers, 10, whatever number of keepers you're trying to decide between. And it's a league that you can trade for other people's keepers depending on the round and et cetera. Again, anything between, rounds 10 and 17 where he's going is a bargain. That's just the kind of juice this kid has. He's already shown the power can be real. He came up, the average was high initially. It kind of tailed off and cooled off a little as, he started getting a little exposed to major league hitters. But again, this was as a 21-year-old. So, I fully expect him to figure it out and get back to what he showed, the discipline as a hitter. This was a kid that was all, thought to be, this kid is going to hit. It's just, will he figure out how to be more than a power hitter? And he has at every level over the last couple of years. So I don't expect that to die out. On the flip end of that is another youngster who I've talked about plenty because I have a personal attachment to him. I, donated to the Pelotero sequel, which is a, documentary highlighting his whole journey from, being a J2 signing at 16 all the way through his debut in the majors. I don't even think the sequel was released because I don't think they got enough funding. So maybe I should have given more. But I'm talking, of course, about Miguel Sano. And what's crazy is he's going at half the cost of Nomar Mazara, who we just talked about. And the troubling thing for me with Sano is it's almost as if he thinks his real at-bats are batting practice. Now, no one would ever accuse him of being a disciplined hitter, but his K rate was never this bad in the minors, and it's really starting to become alarming. It was awful in his debut. in 80 games, he produced a 35.5% K rate. And it actually got worse in his second season when it climbed just a 0.5%, but it was at an even 36%. So it actually got worse from his rookie year to his second season. His BABIP isn't horrible. It was at 329, which actually would have tied him for 32nd in the league had he qualified. Incredibly, it was 396 in his 80-game rookie season, which would have led the league had he qualified. So you can't even look at it as like, he's unlucky. It's literally he's swinging at everything and getting fooled considerably. But when he does get a hold of it, it's leaving the park. So it's like I said, it's almost like he's taking these real at-bats as if they're batting practice. I mean, we think of Adam Dunn as the poster child for a boom or bust hitter, and even his career K percentage was only 28.6%. So that just shows you like how free and wild Sano's swinging. I mean, I wish I could say nicer things about him. I love him, but I just don't see him turning it around anytime soon. I hope he does, because he was a solid hitter in the minors, not just power-wise. But the problem is the splits have been even. Although his second half batting average, creeped up to 247, that was high, and that's not necessarily what we would consider to be a great hitter. So even though I think he'll likely hit 30 home runs, I can't justify his current draft position.
Yeah, and last year was even worse. This year, and I'll explain why he's somebody that I could maybe take a chance on, where I'm seeing him go, somewhere in the 130 range. Last year, his ADP was in the 60s. It was absurd. And everybody was buying into the big power, as they should. This guy has unbelievable power. There's very few guys that probably, hit for as much power as Sano does. But the two numbers I saw last year, and you brought them up, with a 35.5% K percentage mixed with a 396 BABIP, just screamed regression. Obviously, that happened. Last year was limited to 116 games. As you said, the Ks got worse. 36% K percentage. That's a huge deterrent. But he does do two things really well. Hit home runs, we know that. But he does take walks. And I think that's why the K numbers are so high. Because he swings wildly, but he'll wait in his pitch. So it's funny because he'll still get on base. So if you're in a league that has on base percentage sans batting average, I think Sano's value goes up exponentially because his on base percentage isn't awful. If he can make even a little bit of tweaks, if he can get under 30% and get around that Adam Dunn career number, around 28%, we could see his batting average stabilize a little bit. I think if he could stay healthy, he is an easy 30 home run hitter. He could certainly hit 35 to 40. He's got that kind of pop. Where he hits in the lineup will determine how many RBIs he gets. He's still a risky proposition at 137. It's much better than it was last year, where I didn't own him anywhere. I could see taking a chance on him if you need power. Maybe you went speed heavy early, batting average heavy early, pitching heavy early. In dynasty leagues, I don't dislike him. I've traded for him in a few places because some owners are really down on him because of the batting average and some of the other things. I think the ADP correction was good. Depends, you'll know your league, you'll know who you're in it with. But he's somebody that I'm very on the fence about. I love the power. I love the walk percentage. I really hate the Ks. I hate seeing somebody Ks at 36%, and the fact that it didn't get better after his first season in pro ball. We'll see what happens this year. Like I said, if he could stabilize it a little bit, make a few tweaks, even if it means that his walks go down to 8 or 9%, that's fine. If he's not swinging and missing at 36% rate, that is an absurd number. I can't get over it.
So, in a nod to another podcast, what you're saying is he is effectively wild.
He is effectively wild. I think he's like Dunn in that sense. Dunn took a lot of walks, but I think the guys that have the highest strikeout numbers typically are guys that swing and miss because they really go after their pitch, right. And guys that take a lot of walks. He's kind of like Joey Gallo is a prospect that's kind of similar to that. If Gallo's technically not a prospect, but still kind of is. He's another guy. He's more or less Sano coming up. Huge power. Huge swing and miss stuff, can take some walks. So it's three outcome hitters,
Yep. Well, the great thing about this, if you want to look for the silver lining, is that this it might be a great buy low opportunity in dynasty formats for a guy like Sano if his current owner is getting frustrated and fed up with the K rate, was waiting for something that he hasn't turned out to be yet. So you might want to, go fishing. But we're running a little long with these 3 hitters. We hope it was worth it. We hope you're glad you tuned in and stuck around and listened to us for this whole time, because hopefully you learned something about Yoenis Cespedes, Nomar Mazara, and Miguel Sano that you didn't know before you started and hit play. If you like this show, please give us the thumbs up. Don't forget you can go back and check our player library. You can see every player we've covered to this point, all alphabetized for your convenience. Just scroll through it. Please, please, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and check out all our other videos. They're not time sensitive, so you can go back. These are all done in preparation for your 2017 fantasy baseball drafts. So we wish you success, and we wish to see you on the return on a future episode. Take care. We'll see you next time. Thanks.